going to strive to get done today. So it's going to be up to all of you. Because a lot of you are saying that you want to be done today, so. Other than Supervisor Zelmer, he wants to go till Friday, he said, so. That's what he said. Okay, being 1:17, we'll reconvene, and we'll start with Resolution 126-10-2022, Amendment Number 10. Add policy and equity coordinator position to Public Health Department. Be resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County general budget so as to add $102,143 to the 2023 budget of the Public Health Department for the purpose of restoring a policy equity coordinator position to the table of organization appropriate labor budget in Public Health Department. Supervisor Norton.
Chairman, I can make a motion to approve amendment number 10.
And seconded by Supervisor Gordon.
A couple of things I want to point out. We had 4 people when we started out, the only public speakers we had who supported this position being reinstated. I want to point out that this was in the budget for the last 3 to 4 years. It was taken out. I don't know why it was taken out. The work the person was doing was being very effective. I think, part of her job is to help better people's lives, and that's where the policy and equity position would help. And then the pandemic happened, and then that person had to help with that. If you have any other questions, you can ask Doug Gearing, the health director.
Supervisor Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just clarification, I'm not sure if this question should go towards the sponsors of this or to Mr. Guerin. Is this intended for the public, or is this position intended to help our employees of Winnebago County?
Supervisor Norton.
My position and standard would be to help the public, and I'll let Public Health Director Doug Gearin respond too.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. So the position serves internally and externally to the health department. This position really helped coordinate and send correspondence to our county officials, our municipal officials within Winnebago County, made sure that they got relevant health department news updates, helped us stay on top of what was on municipal agendas in case there's a public health issue for the jurisdictions that we serve. The position also helped us serve as a resource for elected officials when they call us about issues. So there might be state legislation that's pending or local legislation, and they just want to understand the issue better. So we can, interpret that. We can also try to take some more complex policies and simplify that so people can understand it more easily about what are the intended and perhaps unintended consequences of some policies that are perhaps well-meaning, but then create a situation that was never intended to begin with. They do kind of the small P policy piece within our department. It's also a resource for other county departments as needed. They provide orientation for staff in public health policy to assist them in their roles within the department.
Thank you.
Okay, there's plenty more, but yeah.
Supervisor Hanson.
I do have a couple of concerns with this particular amendment. One is I would like to know what the differentiation would be because we already have the committee. There's things through UW Extension, so it's an overlap, but more, not even so much the position, the salary. There are credentialed employees with this county now that have been here for a decade or longer that don't earn that. So justify the expense when somebody an attorney, it's public record, an attorney in the Corporation Council doesn't earn that and has a law degree and been with the county for 10 years. So I have a problem with that part too.
Would you like me to respond to that?
If you'd like to, yes.
I mean, I can. I mean, I guess you could say that about any of our specialist positions and, within the department. All our positions have position descriptions written, requirements established. They're classified by the HR department. They're consistent with, other like positions. And this position is currently vacant. Individual left, but was found very competitive. Actually, even better, better benefits and matching or higher salary than we had, which was part of the issue in retaining that employee. So it's not unjustified. If it's too high in comparison to the other position, perhaps that other position needs to be reevaluated.
Supervisor Haran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got two questions. I'm happy to ask them one by one or put the two together. Is this instead of or in addition to the UW Health and Wellness position? And are they going to be cooperative in having things happen? And is the position already vacated, or do you have someone who's already employed in your department?
Sure. I'll start with the end first. Their position is currently vacant.
Yeah.
There we are. The position is currently vacant. We were conducting interviews a little bit earlier this year, but did not fill it in anticipation of it not being in the budget. There really isn't a lot of overlap with UW on this. I know the DEI committee comes up a lot in relation to the position in UW Extension. There really isn't a strong connection there. I mean, could we support, the DEI committee? Could this position be a resource in terms of some of the issues that the DEI committee has? It could. It never has in the past. So there really isn't a current connection between those positions. Certainly they can complement one another. UW Extension has always been a positive complement to public health with, all of their family education and other educational programs. So we certainly like to work with them.
It seems to me like this is a duplication of services, but from what you have just expressed, that is not the case.
No, I would not consider this a duplication by any means.
Thank you.
Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you. I was going to call a question, but as long as I'm the last one, I won't.
Okay, not seeing any lights. We'll vote on machine. If you're in favor of adding policy equity coordinator's position to the public health of 2003, and for adding $102,143 to the 2023 budget of the Public Health Department, signify by saying, or push your button A. If you're not, push nay. Supervisor Flom?
No.
Supervisor Boehm?
No.
That fails 1915. Resolution 126-10-2022, Amendment Number 11, add a payroll and benefits specialist position to the table of organization for human resources. Be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County General Budget as to add $81,701 to the 2023 budget for Human Resource Department for the purpose of adding a payroll and benefit specialist position to the table of organization for Human Resources Department that will allow a higher capacity due to increased needs to hire vacant positions. Supervisor Salinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Amendment 11.
And seconded by Supervisor Powers.
So this is a amendment to add a position into the Human Resources Department that would help process payroll and benefits for our staff. A couple of things, that I think came up during the budget that highlighted this as a need for the county. First, we are hiring more people on an annual basis than we have in the past. I think partially that is we have more staff than we do in past years. We're over 1,100 staff, and so just the natural turnover combined with the current economic or job market where we are hiring and processing more payroll, more benefits, more services to our staff. And so I really see this as a piece that enhances our internal customer service to our people. We heard from Human Services about a higher built-in turnover, 5% of their positions. We talked about the health department having turnover. We talked about the Parkview said that it's just hiring just isn't fast enough. We also just heard that have heard the strains on human resources. I think that was one of the things that that certainly came out from HR. The object items, the first several start with 5.1.1 or 5.1.2 are for wages. The last three are for other office supplies, travel, computer.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to vote in favor of this time after time after time this year, but in years past, maybe not to quite the degree. We heard department head after department head say, I can't keep people employed because counties to the north of us are paying more. There's more higher pay, better benefits. We really need to look closely at our payroll and benefits, and I'm in favor of having this specialist. Thank you.
Supervisor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking at this, we've heard all day lots of departments having trouble getting people hired, how long it takes. This seems to be going in a way of what I said a long time ago, that each department should be responsible for hiring, getting their own people here, because here's the start. We have a study going that we're spending X amount of money for. It's coming up. We're waiting for that, anticipating it, and now we're going to look for someone in a certain division to hire somebody to do the same thing or check all the stuff that we're doing now. We should wait for the study, which it seems like everyone's waiting to find out what the real facts are, what we're really missing out on. I don't think adding to another person to go do the same thing is. We should wait for that, or just forget that, and each division get their own setup and get their own people going on and get their own interviews, get their own reference checks and background checks and that. But I don't think this does it, and this is a little earlier to see how that comes out, because that study, from everything I heard, is everyone is waiting for that magical study to come out to find out what it's all about. So I think we should wait for that. That's my opinion.
Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say this isn't really about the wage study or deciding how to implement any changes or anything like that associated with with payroll or benefits. This is more about how do we administer the payroll and benefits. So if a department needs to, let's say, have a shift differential or needs to create an incentive program or something like that, this position would add to the capacity of our payroll department or our payroll folks to administer those types of changes that we've seen come through the Sheriff's Department, Parkview. We've heard from other departments about the need to have differentials and other types of things like that. When we do have the results of the pay study, and this board decides what money to allocate towards different programs, this position could be a position that helps implement that, but it wouldn't be a decider. This would not be a person or a position that says we should have more or less benefits or whatever. It would just be another person to help administer that. And I'll give one example. If you call HR and you want to know about FMLA or other benefits, this would be a person who would be there to help our employees understand what's available to them. And I'm sure Director Havok is in the back of the room. He might have some other insights about what the position does and how it can help if folks have other questions about that.
Supervisor Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, it's probably not a question, my concern is that I'm looking at the org chart, Human Resources org chart, came out that under payroll and benefits, there's a payroll and benefits manager who is supporting 2 employees, this specialist and a human resource associate too. One manager is going to be supporting 2 people on that. I'm just not sure that there's that much needed for that one person. And here we go again, taking it out of the unassigned general fund balance on that. So this thing probably should have gone through the committees and everything else and before it got here to an amendment. That's all. Thank you.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for the Human Resources Director. How would this position benefit your department? What would be the impacts?
Right now, we have one payroll and benefits specialist for the county, and that person processes all payroll, supported by the manager. But this person also works with benefit orientations. So as we talk about the need to hire additional staff throughout the county, we're adding a generalist that'll help on that recruitment side of things, but then we have limited capacity to actually process those new employees and go through benefit orientations, get them enrolled into different benefits. And so internally we've talked, if this position doesn't go through, we'll probably be diverting some of the human resource professional staff time. Instead of working solely on recruitments and filling vacancies, we'll need to have those staff shoulder more of the load on benefit orientations and things like that. So overall, it will help us increase our capacity to process those new hires.
So when you speak of benefits orientation, is that the onboarding process?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I must have missed this. What was the reason why this position originally wasn't in your budget?
Well, one, obviously, we understand that the budget and the levy targets, and we wanted to meet the levy target presented by the county executive, number one. And obviously, everyone's heard, each department, I'm sure, could make a case for additional staff. And frankly, I want to be judicious and not come up here every year or often and be asking for things like that. I certainly could have tried to include it in the budget, but then of course we wouldn't have hit the levy target.
Thank you.
Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you walk us through a process of a new hire and how long that procedure might take from somebody accepts a job or an interview to them having, being on the payroll?
Sure. So it really begins when we receive notice that someone's going to retire or leave the county. After we receive that notice, HR reviews fill requests that departments fill out, letting us know that someone's leaving. We review the requests, make sure the position's on the table of organization, there's funding, things like that. Once that gets approved, that's when we start our advertising for the position. Sometimes we can find internal candidates within the county to take those positions, but at some point, obviously, we still need to hire from the outside. If we hire an internal candidate, that's generally a pretty quick turnaround because we've already done backgrounds, reference checks, things like that. If it's someone from the outside, number one, we have however long it takes to find a candidate. Some positions are easier to fill than others. Once we have candidates, have done interviews, then we're doing reference checks, backgrounds, pre-employment tests, which could be as simple as drug screenings, or certain positions require a variety of medical tests. If there's medical tests with it, that can typically add at least 2 weeks to the process. And then, depending on the candidate situation, the position that they're applying for, and where they're coming from, they obviously need to give notice as well. So it can be a drawn-out process. Once we do bring them on, we try to do the onboarding process prior to when they start. We meet with individual employees one-on-one, going through their benefits. That process with the employee typically takes approximately an hour, but then there's also all the enrollment pieces after that. So if you're looking for a specific time frame, internal candidates, we might, from the time we post, it could be 3 weeks. External could be much longer than that. Does that answer your question?
Like 6 weeks, like 2 months, I guess. What, I mean, I guess I'm looking at what, I can't speak for everybody else in this room, what they do, but if you're looking for a job and you accept a job and it's going to be 6 weeks for human resources to hire you, that's, yeah, you'll be gone to another county or someplace else.
Right.
That's a long time to wait for this process. So,
from the time the candidate gets an offer and then decides if they're going to accept or not, when that person decides they're accepting, that's then when we initiate any type of background check, pre-employment drug screens, and typically it's about a 2-week, sometimes a little bit more than 2 weeks, but normally candidates need to give a 2-week notice. But we have gotten people in, especially if they're not employed and don't have to give a notice, we've gotten people in within a week.
and, the turnover, as we've heard, has gotten higher, right? We have a lot of positions to fill. That doesn't seem to be going away. So, in your opinion, would this streamline your department?
It will, yes, it will give us greater capacity in the hiring, as well as, right now, we only have 2 people that do payroll for the county. So one of the side benefits of having this position is it gives us greater, protection from unexpected absences, retirements, things like that, to do payroll. And because this is a payroll and benefits specialist, it helps us with that entire pipeline, not just that front-facing recruiting standpoint. It's all the things after that we also need the capacity to process.
You said 2 for 1,200 employees? 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Supervisor Hran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question this time is relatively simple. Do you find that over time this will create a cost savings over the entire county spectrum?
I don't know that, first of all, it's intended to create a cost savings. It could indirectly, as far as Supervisor Buck pointed out, if we can hire people more quickly. Certainly any positions that are at a 24/7 facility where there's overtime and things like that, the sooner we can get people hired, the more quickly we can minimize that overtime. But the position itself is really not geared towards savings per se.
Thank you.
Supervisor Cox.
To try out my new micro.
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Hi. You're operating into what software for your package to do personnel and to do payroll?
Munis, we share that software with finance.
You just moved into it then?
We've been with Munis for quite some time, but we are doing an upgrade next year.
Okay. So when you look for this person, when that comes up, you'll want to make sure you got a good person trained in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you. My very quick question, so if a department had an incentive program, for example, a college reimbursement program, this person could administer that and keep track of that? I'm just curious.
Yes, anything that deals with actual pay, whether it's incentive, whether there's shift differentials, Anything that's related to funds that an employee receives gets processed by this position.
And so it doesn't matter if it's a single department or countywide, they do it. Okay, well, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Bonzer.
Yes, I just have one question out of curiosity. Is that position also work with the insurance, or is that a separate department altogether?
It support primarily our payroll and benefits manager primarily works with the insurance piece. However, her team deals with all of the insurance and enrollments and things like that. So it primarily focuses payroll specific, but it's on the team that administers all the benefits.
So this person's going to actually be in payroll and in insurance, or they do the insurance? Because I know when I was in the working mode, insurance was huge because claims wouldn't be paid, there was miscommunication, so that's where I'm asking you if this person handles the insurance.
The way you're asking the question, I would say no.
Okay.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General question, a minute to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Many private sector organizations and maybe some public sector outsource payroll administration and automate enrollment services. Have we given thought to that?
Well, I know that actually Director Collard had experience with that and looking at that, and he's heard that some of those companies would not want to touch the complexity that we have with all of our various pay rules, and I believe it was actually a global company that he was speaking with that said our rules, were more complex than what they had to deal with.
Any thought to setting up systems where employees can take care of their own insurance enrollment via an intranet type system?
We've got a lot of information on the intranet. We've looked at some systems that would allow us to have more of an online presence for that. One of the issues that we have, though, is that you've got the initial software cost, you've got licensing fees, you've got ongoing expenses with that. And then, of course, you need staff to know that system, administer that system, set it up. So either way, I think it's going to end up being an expense for us. We have looked at that, though.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions, kind of piggybacking off from Supervisor Bucks. Is it true that some of the departments are now going ahead and they're doing their own interviewing?
Yes.
Okay, and then they're doing that, and it's still taking 3 to 4, after they get them, they send them to you, still taking 3 to 4 weeks for us to get them out into the workforce, not just the ones that we got to worry about being on the technical end of it or whatever. It's still taking so long, and I'm wondering why, because other counties are hiring them, so they must have to go through the same safety precautions there.
Well, it really depends, and we'll have people start before certain aspects are done. For instance, those positions that have fingerprint requirements, we typically have those positions start prior to receiving those results back because the results literally can take months. But once we extend an offer, it's typically within 2 to 3 weeks that candidates start with us.
2 to 3, not 3 to 4.
Correct.
Okay.
But again, we have some positions where an employee may need to give a month's notice. And in that case, those aren't things that are necessarily incumbent on us. It's working with that new employee.
I agree with that. I just want to make sure it's not on us.
Yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So much along the lines there, and a lot of the people that I've been talking to in different committees, they say there's people out there, but it's taking a long time to get them. Because now that your department or some department didn't have time to do reference checks or check the people where they worked before, so they're missing out on that. And so now we're getting a specialist who's going to be in charge of the payroll and knowing exactly about benefits and that. That we need, before that step is what I was thinking, is that the people are out there, we got to get them quickly hired, but the perception is it takes a little bit longer to get them out. That we have people out there, but by the time we get to them, they're already gone somewhere else, or they changed their job, or they don't want the job now, or something changed, and I know from the business that I was in, if they're looking here, they're looking elsewhere. And so whoever gets them first to get the benefits. So that's why I was saying that being a specialist in these two areas is important, but we need the step just before to get them, like, how can we get them here faster? What can we check out? And then, like I said, a lot of people said that now it's been related back to whatever department is, they're doing the check on the people in the background and call. And they don't have time for it either. So, you know, Mr. Possible is sitting out there dangling, and, you know, I know if I have hired for a job, I've got 34, I'm kind of like, somebody call me, you know, I want to go. And so I think when we're talking about importance about here, it's great, and I know we need somebody, but I think we need somebody to be doing the reference check, to be in the calls. What can we do to get more people here? Because everyone is missing out on something, and that's what I'm worried about. I know the payroll real good, I know all the benefits, but how do I get somebody here so I can get you a customer or get you a person here right now? And that's what I think is more important. But that job could do that, right?
Yes.
I mean, it'd be important to do that.
And just as a statement, it's not an excuse, but with the changes that we've had over the past year, since February of 2022, I've been doing 2 jobs at the same time. So we've in essence been short a generalist, which certainly compounded those issues from a capacity standpoint. Now, we did replace the position that I had in mid-September. So that's helped bring us back to, as that person gets up to speed and trained, that will help us get back up to the capacity we had in 2021, which even at that time, the board considered adding a position. With the 2023 budget, we were able to add in an additional generalist to help on that front end. Just as you're speaking, this would help with the after the front end piece of it.
Well, that's important because a lot of this board is new, so we weren't part of the beginning. But as we're developing in this year, we're seeing the need for that extra person to do someone else's job. And here we're dicing it up and changing it, but there's a lot of stuff we're going to be back talking because we're going to need some of these people.
Yes.
So that's all I said. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Stafford, did you have a question or was it answered? It was answered. Okay, thank you. Sometimes when I push a light, another one will go off, so that's why I'm asking. Okay, not seeing any other lights. If you're in favor of adding a payroll and benefit specialist position to the table of organizations for human resources, for the purpose of adding and payroll and benefit specialist to the table of organizers for human resource department that will allow a higher capacity due to increased needs to hire vacant positions, vote A. If you're not, vote nay. Supervisor Flom?
No.
Supervisor Beam?
No.
Fails. It's tied, so that means it does fail. I don't know if I should announce that or not.
It did hit the news.
Oh, it did.
But that's why it left. He's
Oh.
trying to speak with Sheriff.
Okay. Just so you know, I guess it hit the news already, so I'm going to announce it. I don't know the person or anything, but County Executive, maybe you should come up and announce it. You probably know more about it than I do.
Yeah, we just had a conversation with the sheriff. We just want to let you all know that there has been a death in the jail. And not a lot of information out right now and a lot of information we want to have out right now. We just want you to be aware of it. And it is being investigated by an external source. The only thing I can say is it does not appear to be suicide, and it may be something else, but just a reminder of what the sheriff said of the fragility of the people that we are dealing with in our county when they come in. So I'm sorry to announce that, but it did hit the news.
I thank you. If you want to stay right up here, being that you're the head of this department, in case there's any questions. Regularly, we don't have the county executive, but we always have the department head, so I'm going to let him go ahead if there's any questions just on this amendment. So we're going to go ahead to resolution number 12610, 2022, Amendment 12, eliminating funding for executive assistant position. Be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends the 2023 Winnebago County General Budget so as to delete $90,808 from the 2023 budget for the purpose of eliminating funds from the executive's assistant position in the county executive's office. Supervisor Cox.
Motion for the resolution number 126. I would like to make a motion for the resolution 126, 10, 20, 22, amendment 012. This is not about a particular person.
I need a second, Supervisor Cox. Okay, I have a second by Supervisor Nichols.
Okay, thank
Now
you.
you may go ahead.
This is not about a particular person. However, the executive budget is too high. It has been too high since I started. Every other department has had a cut, had to cut at least to 4%. Yet the executive budget has not received the same benefit of cutting at 4%. It's time to make a cut. So,
Supervisor Albrecht.
My name is on this, but I have since given it a lot of thought as I was sitting here eating my messy McRib sandwich. I think that the county executive is asking for help, and he deserves to have help. I mean, he has one of the biggest jobs in the county, and I feel as though we should support him.
Supervisor Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wrote a statement because of my brain fog, so I'm just going to read that. Just to clarify, I don't think my opinion of Ethan Hollenberger matters. However, this is who our county executive chose to fill the position. With this in mind, I do have concerns specifically in regards to Ethan Hollenberger being in this position. I see the intention of the amendment. However, by eliminating the position, the funding for it, we are violating Wisconsin State Statute 59.17. Here is what I would suggest we do in regards to the Ethan Hollenberger situation.
I believe I know what you're going to say. It should not be any names in this. We're just talking about the position.
And it's not the issue at all.
Well, he's the person in the seat, isn't he? It seems like an attack.
Point of clarification.
Supervisor Nichols, you seconded, so I'll let you just speak just
Thank
for a
you.
second.
Thank you, Supervisor Dowling. This amendment is in regards to a brand-new position that was included in the budget, and it's an executive assistant, administrative assistant. I believe that'll be sharing time between the, no?
No, it is to eliminate funding.
It's not that position.
Ethan Hollenberger's current position.
Then we need to clarify what this is about, actually, so.
Correct.
Sorry about
This
that.
time, I'm
And-
going to let the county executive explain
Thank you.
exactly what this is for. And like I said, if you have any questions of him, it'll just be on this thing, nothing else.
Can I reserve the floor for when he's done?
1 second.
Thank you. Yes, when he's finished.
yeah, Supervisor Albrecht, I really appreciate your comments. Thank you dearly for that. This is my executive assistant position. It's not the administrative four. This is the person, this was the one staff that I have and have had since I got here. Just want to talk a little bit about an organization. And we have a lot of things coming down the pipeline, building studies and other things. I need help from my staff to administer these things so we can make sure that we are working together as one county. To facilitate a strategic plan to take down the silos that have been here for a long time. And I think if you ask our department heads, they'll admit to you that we've been doing a good job of that, of collaboration. So in the last year and a half of me and my one staff, we have brought forward itemized agenda reports to make sure that you guys have as much information as possible, draft resolutions so you can see the language as it goes through committees. We have a lot more work to do. So I, number one, need this staff in my office. Number two, it's protected in the statute. And number three, we need to work together. This budget is all about you appropriating all the dollars for Winnebago County. I remind you that I'm the one that spends it. And any dollars that are appropriated do not have to be spent. And we need to not taking shots at each other like this. So do I need my assistant? Absolutely. Me and the Director of Administration need the Administrative 4 help as well? Absolutely. Are we still the lowest funded executive branch out there?
Just stick to what this is on,
Correct,
please.
absolutely. But this position is crucial to the operations of the county. Otherwise, we're just going to do a whole bunch of studies with no action. And the last point, if I may, the biggest increase in my budget was employee appreciation. That's what it was. It was not salary. It was not benefits. It was employee appreciation.
I am going to go back to Supervisor Dowling first, and then to Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leaving out names then, I do want to remind everyone that removing the funding would be a state statute violation. The statute is 59.17. Because of that, I will not be voting for this because I don't think this should have come across our desk in the first place. Thank you.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for adding my name to a resolution. I misunderstood. This is not what I understood myself to be signing on to, and that is on me. So I apologize for that, and will also remove my name from this amendment.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sue Ertmer passed this piece of paper around to us yesterday because I came to her and I said, isn't there supposed to be a county county employees or a day with the students? And I said, it's not on the calendar. And as of this morning at 8:30, it's still not on the calendar. This was somebody's responsibility, and he didn't do it. I heard from a supervisor who I'm going to refer to as they rather than he or she. They told me that being in the building at one point, they went to county executive's office to wish him or to express condolence on the death of his father, and the person who's being named nameless was told the supervisor, don't come in here without an appointment. All he or she wanted to do was to express condolence. Third, I'm from Indiana. A girlfriend I had from the time I was 6 years old, first grade, all the way through college. She saw this on national news and said, isn't this your county where this guy is talking about urinating on an employee? And I said, I was utterly humiliated. And I said, yeah, that's my county. In speaking to the county executive today, I said, nothing was done about this. He said, yes, I did something privately. When my husband would make a boneheaded insult at me in front of a crowd of people and apologize to me later in private, I'd say there's something missing in a private apology for a public humiliation. And this was definitely a public humiliation. Thank you.
Let's all please stick to the amendment. Supervisor Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also known as Jimmy Wise here on this, but I'm also going to take my name off of this. I have had second thoughts about it, and I really think I'm going to go ahead and vote for this. So, thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've long been an advocate for the county executive. If there is a personnel issue involved with his assistant, human resources is the place to act. I laud the county executive for finding an assistant who can help him wade through the gobbledygook of government. And he hired his assistant, and his assistant has directed him through the dark forest of government for a man who is a restaurateur, entrepreneur. I will not support this amendment. From the get-go, the first day that the assistant was proposed to the Personnel and Finance Committee, I headed the charge to hire him, to give the executive the leeway to find someone to help him, and he has.
Supervisor Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I opened with my statement, I said that this is not about a particular person. I meant that. This is about a department that is run relatively well when Mr. Damel's in the office. Otherwise, there has been problems. We know of them. You've had people investigate them. And I would rather think that you'd want to do something at least about the overspending, and there has been overspending in the very start of the hiring process. And since, there shows in the budget books, as you put them together for 3 years, it's been an increase in that department, an increase, an increase, an increase, till it's now around, what, 300,000? Mm-hmm. I think it's time to make a cut, and you have a choice as to who you want in there, but to make the cut.
Supervisor Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, I guess, there's this point of information of the state statute 59.17, section 4, just the compensation of county executive, deputy, and staff assistants, that the board shall set the fixed compensation of the county executive's administrative secretary, and the county executive staff assistants, provided that's a salary, obviously, blah, blah, for county executives before the election. So I guess, put that out there. I think there is an underlining tone to this amendment, and I think a lot of this may need to be referred to the Personnel and Finance Committee as well. It's pretty clear, it's the elephant in the room. We all know what this is really pointed at, and I don't think it should go unaddressed. I feel it's been kind of swept under the rug, but I believe that adopting this amendment might not solve that issue. So thank you very much.
Supervisor Hanson.
Supervisor Gustafson just touched on what I want. Corporation Counsel, could you please help me understand 59.17? I give what you say a lot of weight in your interpretation of the law. Please help me with that.
I have the statute right here. The bottom line is the county executive can staff his office with who he wants, and I have told him that from day one. The statute does allow, and as you know, I've referenced this with the board can have the power of the purse. Now let me just go through 5917 so we can actually use the words of the statute, all right? If you go to 5917 sub 2, it specifically says the duties and powers of the county executive shall be without limitation, because of enumeration 2, coordinate and direct all administrative and management functions of the county government not otherwise vested by law in other elected officials. It goes on to say that in sub 3, the county executive may appoint administrative secretaries using hiring procedures which shall be exempt from county civil service competitive examination procedures and such additional staff assistance as the board provides. 5917.4 says, in terms of compensation of county executive, deputy, and staff assistants, which Supervisor Gustafson referenced, the board shall fix the compensation of the county executive's administrative secretary, and the county executive's staff assistants, provided that the salary of the county executive shall be established at least 90 days prior to any election held to fill the office. Does that answer your question, Supervisor Hanson?
Yes, but if you could help the layperson like me translate to non-legalese.
Yes, essentially, as I've said, the county executive has the power to put in his office, in terms of staff, who he wants. You have no say in that. And again, going back to statute, it talks about him having the duties to coordinate and direct all administrative and management functions of the county government. The statute does provide in 5917 that, again, the board shall fix the compensation of the county executive's administrative secretary, and the county executive's staff assistants. So again, the power of the purse with the board, primarily you are a policy-making entity, and the county executive is the CEO who is managing the affairs of government.
Thank you. So if I could just add then, I've heard, we need to cut, and there's definitely places we need to cut, but so many of the amendments that are put forward were for increases. So I would ask that everyone weigh I'm now wondering, was there a different motivation? And perhaps it's right that it needs to go through a different office and not. I'm kind of thinking that part of this might be punitive, and I'm not okay with that.
If I may, just to be clear, you absolutely have the power to pull the salary. That is correct in a layman's term. You do not have the power to pull the position, but you do have the authority to pull any funding from anywhere.
Supervisor Ellenberger.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm having a lot of difficulty with this amendment. I was kind of surprised when I saw it because knowing the statute with this also, I I think that as a board, we need to remember what lane we're supposed to be in also. That he is allowed to, as a county executive, to hire whom he wants. And that is his authority, as the council has just explained to us in detail multiple times. I'm absolutely going to vote against this. And I do see that this might be a little bit more political as opposed to a budget item. Thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
So, County Executive Damo, there's good days and bad days. So, to me, this is a bad day for you on this subject. I understand that we can strip the funding, but not the position. I think that maybe I was going to vote for this. I don't like that scenario. I don't like pulling funding, but the position stays. I think you need to handle the other side of this situation a little differently in maybe another department. Because to me, if we pull the funding and you have the position, it just sits there and hangs there. So, and you know what I'm talking about on the other side of the, so to me, to pull this funding isn't going to resolve what I came here today to get resolved, because it really shouldn't be in the budget. So I agree with Supervisor Ellenberger. I just wish that this had come down a different way. And I have read that statute, and you guys are totally correct on what's all going down. So I don't think this is a budget issue. So therefore, I'm not going to support this, but I hope other things get resolved. Thank you.
Supervisor Albert.
Have you done any outside investigations on this?
Absolutely. And I would say that something was done, but we don't air that, and we don't do that for any of our employees throughout the county. Any HR investigation that were to happen, no other employee will ever figure out what the discipline is, and for good reason, because you don't do that. That is not good practice to do. Outside investigation was hired, and that investigation concluded that we did act appropriately, and that no further action was recommended, no suspension, no termination, because I take this job seriously, and I take my oath seriously, and I take my role as a leader seriously, and you can ask any of my department heads, and I think they'd all agree with you. So my office is open. I don't know who would have told somebody that you have to have an appointment. Again, I didn't hear the name of that. My office is always open, and my phone is usually on. And any one of you want to reach out to me, I am there, and I am more than willing to answer those questions. Supervisor Zellmer, we had a nice conversation in my office. Right. You know, you came in, and that's what we do. And if there's ever an issue, I would hope that you would reach out to me and ask those questions. That's what we're here for. But as far as this position and the staffing, you guys all know the general fund is coming down. We know that levy limits are where they're at. We know there's tough decisions that we're going to have to make, and I need the staff in that fourth floor to guide us to the best decisions for Winnebago County so we can make informed decisions. We cannot go at our budget with a hatchet. We can't. And if we're ahead of it, we can make the best decisions going forward to set us up for the long run. And I need the staff to help administer that.
And I want everyone, county executive and board members, to remember, we're talking about a position. I know it's in the back of all of our mind, but we're talking about a position.
No, it's not a position, it's funding for a position.
Funding for a
Funding,
position,
yeah.
I'm sorry, funding for a position, but same thing. Funding for a position, correct. Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I apologize for the confusion. Corporate counsel, can I remove my second from this motion?
Let me look it up. Hold on a minute. My opinion is you cannot at this point, since we are already in the middle of discussion regarding this issue.
Great, then I will clarify that my second is for the purpose of discussion. Thank you.
So that means none of them can pull it. I know some other ones that had suggested that, but no one can pull it then. There was some other ones that said that they wanted to also, but they didn't want their names on there.
Yeah.
So if she can't, then no one can.
No. She's talking about making the motion. She was not
Oh.
talking about the sponsoring.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, so I'm sorry.
Remove their name from the sponsoring. But since we're already in the middle of debate, you can't remove the second.
Supervisor Hens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think perhaps maybe we need to look at this in a way that everybody might understand a little better. Right now, we're in budget. We're the equivalent of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. This is our president, and he's allowed to have a chief of staff. He's allowed to fill out his staff however he wants. We're the ones who figure out what that's worth. Am I wrong on that?
You're not.
That's the situation we are in, legally. And regardless of what the inspiration was behind this, if $9,000 that we were talking about for scholarships before was it .0005?
0.00005.
Okay, 4 zeros and then a 5, .00005, then 90,000 will be .0005% of the budget. And that's what we're arguing about right now. And I can't say what other people's motivations are as far as personnel goes. And I know we're not supposed to talk about that, so I will refrain from that. I'm confident from hearing what I heard today, which we didn't need to hear today, that it's been investigated and action has been taken. Regardless, if that was behind this, that's neither here nor there. What we're dealing with is the money in front of us right now. And I think that that's what we need to remember and sit and concentrate and make your vote in your good conscience. I'm not going to try to convince you either way. Make your vote in your good conscience and know that you're making it because of the budget, not because of something else. Thank you.
Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request a roll call vote.
Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, admittedly, I approach this being pretty conflicted behind it, but you know, when I speak to other counties at the Wisconsin Counties Association or especially NACO, it's really it's pretty typical and very common for pretty much every county to have an assistant. Sheboygan County, they have an assistant. Calumet County, they have an assistant. It's very typical for county executives to have an assistant. So it's, and you know, especially knowing you, Mr. Damel, and how you are burning the candle at both ends, managing a restaurant too. I know you need all the help you can get. Honestly, I think the whole reason why there's controversy over this is just simply how you approach this in the beginning. You know, you just came in as a fresh county executive. You didn't know exactly what the process was. You already, you know, you admitted to us that was a flub, and you could have approached it better. But really, I mean, you know, if we got the input from P&F beforehand, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation. You know, as for the amount that we're funding for that position, that there is an increase there. But I mean, you know, everyone's seeing an increase because of inflation. You know, obviously, I'm not exactly sure if that position deserves a raise, but you know, we'll find out. I'm going to be voting against this for now.
If I may talk to the funding and your discussion about other deputy administrators and chiefs of staffs, I would encourage you to look at their salaries. And I'd encourage you to look at this salary. And I'd like you to think about how much less this position is being paid for the other like positions throughout the entire country doing the same work.
Thank you. Supervisor Cox.
That's his third time, yeah.
Good thing you guys are
Let me
counting.
refer to the lead.
They're saying that's your third time.
All right, the
So you
amendment.
can't talk. Sorry. Supervisor Estera.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure, am I able to share the positives that I have received as a supervisor under his assistant?
As long as it has to do with this here, you can do anything you want.
Okay, it's, first of all, thank you very much. It's really important for me in this position to get behind lots of people, my constituents, my colleagues, even if we disagree, and especially my chairman and my executive. That's just really important for me. I don't want to have to feel like I'm toiling and battling, and I get that. I get the fact that that isn't necessarily right or wrong. That's just me. And I just want to share that I have been extremely encouraged by the executive's assistant insofar as if I need to text him a question about, our elementary students included tomorrow, and he will respond to me. I took part in, I believe, 2 of the executive and, the trainings for the employees. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. I took place. I went to half of one and half of the other, but I still was there. The assistant Hollenberger, conducted at least one of those trainings. I was inspired. He made me feel very relaxed. I learned a lot, and I could tell in the room that the employees were very encouraged, and they opened up about things that they were holding on to. So anyway, I just want to say that I appreciate the dialogue, and that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other lights on.
Mr. Chairman, I've had my hand raised for about the
I'm
past
sorry,
5
yes,
minutes. I'd
I
like
do
to
have
add
your
a
name
point.
here. I apologize, Supervisor Flom. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In looking at this situation, it's obviously rather difficult to, but you need to separate the person, in my opinion, from the legal reality on the ground. The fact of the matter is that this probably, if this passes, would result in a legal fight. A legal fight which would destroy working relationships and damage the county's image. I would like to provide a recommendation for the author, and that would be to table this and to refer the spirit of the matter, to the Personnel and Finance Committee for a closed session if he so desires. It is his committee. He runs the agenda. If he wants to have a closed session, he can. And I'm surprised that he hasn't already, given the fact that he's drawn up this resolution now. The legal issues with this are evident. I think a closed session would be appropriate if the chairman of that desires. I don't know if I can actually have this referred back to a committee given that it's a budget amendment, but I would recommend that the author go ahead and have a closed session if that is what he would like to do in this regard.
I thank you, Supervisor Flom. I'm going to ask corporate counsel, but being with all the names on here, they're not all in that there, so I cannot tell you what she's going to say, but I don't believe they can go back to committee. When we're in budget session.
Correct, point of order.
Let me just look it up. I'm not going to talk off the top of my head. Hold on a minute.
Corporate counsel is going to look that up.
Cannot go back since you're in the middle.
You cannot go back.
Okay. Then I would just have that as a friendly recommendation. Given the legal challenges here, Morris, if you want to go into closed session, that's your prerogative. And if you think that it's really worth doing that, then go right ahead. I think that's something you should do if you feel it's worth it.
Okay, not seeing any other lights on. This is the amendment. Eliminate 12, eliminating funding for exercise assistant position. Be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends the 2023 Winnebago County general budget so as to delete $90,808 from the 2023 budget for the purpose of eliminating funding for the executive's assistant position in the county executive's office. If you wish to do that, vote A. If you do not, vote nay. It's up on their things. Supervisor Flom.
No.
Supervisor Bame.
No.
They're both no, yes. And the nays have it 31-3. Resolution number 12610, 2022, Amendment 13, Expo Center Emergency Use Upgrade. Winnebago County Supervisors, be it resolved by the Winnebago County Supervisors that it hereby amends the 2023 Winnebago County general budget so as to add $800,000 to the 2023 budget of the Facilities Department for the purpose of installing an emergency generator. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for budget amendment number 013.
Seconded by Supervisor Bender. Supervisor Gabbard.
Here's a simple statement. I think this should come out of the ARPA funds. I think this would qualify. I'm not going to add this to our budget. We're sitting here all day adding. This should qualify for ARPA. I don't know if the committee has seen this or not. I appreciate Supervisor Eisen's lengthy discussions on this. I think it should be in the budget. It should be in the budget.
Just hold on a second here. It should read, I'm sorry, I had a different one. They sent me a new one. It should be $853,016. That's the difference, so.
Yeah, there was two of them actually.
There was two of them, so. No, I need to get back up on the screen here. What now?
Oh, dear.
Just have to hold on a minute. Problems here. Take a short break here now. I can't blame it on Julie, so want to just take a short break?
The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
$153,016 to the 2023 budget, the Facilities Department for the purpose installing an emergency generator. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've attempted to have distributed, with the assistance of the county clerk and her deputy, my 2-minute speech. What I'd like to do is summarize what I have to say in respect to authorizing the purchase and installation of the emergency center emergency generator. It's listed in the capital improvements plan for this year. $800,000 for equipment. If you've taken the time to read the description and justification, you'll know. On page 556 of the 2023 executive budget, a new project for 2023 is proposed. Expedition Center Emergency Generator. The projects listed for 2023 are projects contemplated for the year. As in the case in the past, many for them will not likely move forward until a year later. If we don't move to approve this item today, It's not in the goals for facilities. It's not in the goals for emergency management. It's not in the goals for parks. I'm going to let somebody else speak so we can go home soon.
Supervisor Hanson.
I'm not sure who would need to answer this question. I first absolutely commend Supervisor Eisen. This is a project that I absolutely support. My only question then goes back to how we handle it and execute the project. I am aware that it is before the ARPA Commission, and if it can be handled that way, then I think that's the route we should go. I am interested in locking down a price, and I think that's one of the areas that Supervisor Eisen is going, because it's only going to increase if we delay it. So I guess part of my question is, can this go through ARPA? If it does, how soon can it be executed? If it does not, what then turns on this impact as far as making it happen?
I can tell you part of it, and then I might have to turn it over to Mike. It is on the ARPA committee list, but that list, there's a lot of them on there, and there's lots of things to come in yet, which you know very well. So, and how that money's all going to be distributed and who's going to get how much is yet to be seen. But it is on the ARPA committee and list. And Mike, how do we have to approve that before you can even start looking into it? If we know that's going to be on there.
Well, no, we can certainly start and have started looking into it. It can be approved as an ARPA project anytime the commission meets to recommend it and to submit it to the county board. Now, the way we've set up the ARPA funds, using it as lost revenue, does a couple things for us. One is to technically move it out of the fund that we're going to set up after the end of the year would require action in 2023, not this month, so that would be a modest delay, perhaps, but not a very substantial delay. It could be approved in early 2023. On the other hand, if the budget amendment were to pass, it would still be an option, in my opinion, for the county board, upon recommendation from the ARPA Commission, if they choose to do that, to essentially backfill this money using the ARPA dollars. So it could be approved now as part of the budget, in my opinion, give us authority to go ahead with bidding the project or seeking proposals or further, whatever the next steps would be. I'm not that familiar with you know, what kind of vendors would be involved and what the process would exactly be. And then the ARPA Commission could recommend and the board could approve backfilling that funds, putting that money back in the undesignated general fund, from the ARPA dollars that we received after the fact. That would be an option. So it could go either way. Either way, we're really looking at exploring it early in 2023 at the earliest.
Just as a follow-up then, if anyone is opposed, because I'm hearing that even if we approve it, we can still facilitate this through ARPA, so the impact is different. So I'm more inclined to vote in favor of this with that condition and guarantee. So if there's opposition, I'd like to hear, please.
Supervisor Cox.
I didn't know I was on. No, I think that it's a good idea, that it should be placed first in the CIP book and taken from there into the ARPA committee. I don't think that it should be taken out of the CIP book where it's currently at, and then hope that the ARPA committee selects it amongst all the other projects. So keep it where it is, but we'll try to get it in to the ARPA fund when that time comes. That's all I have.
Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On facilities, we have been talking about this, and Director Elder is in the back, and maybe he can provide an update on maybe some timing on this. I know there's been some talks about this, and I guess maybe in his perspective, if doing this now would speed up the process at all.
I guess we've had it in the capital plan for the last year, and our goal was to keep it in the capital plan. We've had a proposal from an electrical contractor that gave us this dollar amount on what they would estimate it would be. Our intent was to have it in the capital plan and lump it in with all the other projects that we're gonna hopefully have with our building assessment, so that we could determine what the priorities were for all of the projects.
And do you think that approving this now would speed up the process with the contractor currently looking at that?
If we approved it now, it would speed it up by a couple months.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Vice Chairman Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to refer to the ARPA Commission, and this is one of the projects that's on the broad list. And I appreciate the comment from Mike. So obviously, if the commission has the option to backfill the spending, I guess it don't matter if we do it now or 2 months from now. So I think I'll support it, certainly.
Supervisor Hens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that one of the big argument that was made in this nice proposal and information that was provided by Supervisor Eisen, he was worried about it falling through the cracks again. We have a facility study coming up that we just authorized today. And that facility studies, I'll guarantee you it doesn't fall through that crack, because that's what they're there for. Just something else to keep in mind before we go approving another $800,000 ahead of time, where we know that we have a study that's going to come back and tell us the same thing too. Thank you.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Supervisor Eisen's work in gathering momentum and support for this amendment. Safety and emergency preparedness are priorities in our community. We know what an emergency generator means for emergency preparedness in Winnebago County, and it needs to be funded. The reason I support this amendment to the budget is because budgets are a statement of priorities. And if it's not in the budget lays out what's going to be funded. If it's not in the budget, there's no guarantee that it'll be funded, but the budget allows for that process to start. And so when I think about county budgets, capital improvements should be included and approved with the budget. And so for those reasons, I'm supporting this amendment.
Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to say that if we wait for that study, we had a wage study that we approved the money for last year. We don't have a wage study yet. So maybe we'll get that generator in 2024. If something would happen where they had to evacuate the people out of Parkview, say we had a tornado over there, they're going to go to the expo center. That's where they're going to go. And if we don't have power there, if we don't have a generator, some of them people are on oxygen, and there's all kinds of needs for this. We have no emergency shelter that has power. So we can wait till 24, and hopefully we don't have a tornado and we never have to evacuate Parkview, and that would be the greatest thing that could happen. But if it does happen and we need to take those residents out of there, we need a facility that's going to have power, that's going to be able to sustain them until we get the facility back up and running. So I would urge the county board to approve this, and let's get this generator done so we have a place to put people in case there is an emergency.
Supervisor Norton.
My question, how much would this $800,000 add to the tax rate? And how much for like a average home? And my point would be, if we're going to use ARPA funds, and we're going to use ARPA funds to pay for it, and I'll support it in January, why are we going to add this to the budget and add to tax rolls when something's going to be funded? We have funding for it for just a little bit later, and we're not guaranteed it's going to speed up anytime soon. That's why I'm leaning towards voting against this.
Well,
want to make sure I answer all your questions, but I think the main point or the main question was about the increase to the tax levy, and passing this at this point would not change the tax levy. The tax levy is pretty well fixed unless there's a new amendment. The only one that would have really affected the tax levy is the one that had the 250,000 going up to the cap. Okay. You know, so otherwise, except for amendments like that, the tax levy's been fixed, so all the changes really affect the general fund balance, or perhaps some other fund balance, but in this case it would be the unassigned general fund. So that's where it would be, and it would be whatever the amount is. If it's 853,000 that's spent, it would come out of the unassigned general fund balance, and you know, potentially could be then backfilled with the ARPA funding. It's about the same amount as we have in the tax levy for new construction, which is 825,000. So that'll give you some scale, and I'm not sure if we can drill that down to what an average home would be, because it wouldn't affect that directly. It would just affect our bank balance.
Supervisor Hanson.
I hesitate to ask, but I see Eric in the back of the room. Can I ask his opinion on this, because it's going to affect him directly as well? I hate to put you on the spot, I'm sorry.
It's fine here. What question do you have exactly, Connor?
Are you seeing an advantage to this amendment as opposed to waiting for our...
I feel weird saying this.
You can come up here. You can come right up here.
Obviously-
No, Eric, come up here.
Oh, sorry.
Come right
Obvious-
up here. Come right up here, Eric.
From an emergency management standpoint, obviously, time is of the essence, right? The more quickly that we can be prepared, the better. Does 2 months make a difference? If I knew that answer, I would hope you guys would pay me substantially more than I am being paid. But obviously, us being prepared and being a more resilient community is something that I'm very passionate about, and I really don't want to wait. That's why I've been pushing this hard for a long time, right, Paul? So I brought this up to a lot of you. A lot of our department heads have been working diligently on this for 2 years now. 2-month head start is great. We don't know what that 2 months looks like, especially with the delays in supply chain right now too. So.
Supervisor Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question might actually be a corporate counsel question. I'm curious to know if we are required by law to provide an emergency facility.
Yes, that's to you.
Supervisor Dowling, I do not know the answer to that question. I would think we would, but I would need to check it. Oh,
Okay. No, that's fine. And then I guess my follow-up question, Supervisor Bittner mentioned the residents of Parkview using the location as an emergency location. I guess my next question is, who gets to say who jumps into the lifeboat? With 175,000 residents in Winnebago County, who gets in, who doesn't? I guess I'm just curious to know about that. I'm seeing a little bit of a Titanic theme going on here.
Supervisor Dowling, Director Rasmussen here again. I think you're exactly correct. If we have the type of scenario that we're planning for, we will be using that facility and a lot of our other facilities throughout the community in a lot of scenarios. That facility, for example, for Parkview, speaking with their director, is not a place that we could maintain their residents long-term, but it would be a place that we could temporarily house them until we could distribute them to other nursing homes throughout the community and the region. Sunnyview is in itself, for an emergency preparedness facility, is very unique in our region. It would be even more valuable as a regional asset as well as a county asset with this generator. Throughout the region, there are not any facilities that I'm aware of of this size that are on full generator power. If you talk to Oshkosh Arena, for example, do they have a generator? Yes. But does it facilitate full function of the building? No. It operates emergency lighting, emergency exit lighting. This building is one that we plan for if we were needing to set up a shelter. It's identified in a lot of our schools as a reunification site. Mass vaccination clinic, we've seen that. A lot of our, a lot of our special events also identify that as a place that they could use if needed. So this is a facility that we identify over and over and over in our emergency planning because of its uniqueness, because of the ability that we have to control it as a county. And this generator use is one of the things that we look for as a gap in our resilience.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Corporate Counsel, I think, might have an answer for you, Supervisor Dowling.
Just as a follow-up, it might be a bit attenuated, but 32314 states all Wisconsin cities, villages, and towns are required to adopt an emergency plan and designate an emergency manager. I don't know if that helps you, but that's by statute.
And just to clarify, the word county was not included in that sentence?
No, looking at this, it says Wisconsin cities, villages, and towns.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Supervisor Gabbard.
So we're worried about 2 months, Eric. Some people are. So I don't care how this goes down, except that I still am thinking we're going to backtrack to ARPA. So I would be an advocate to get that money back. We have no guarantee that we'll get that done in 2 months because of the chain of getting the generators, the electric. So even if we decide today to put this in the budget and put this out for bids, we're not going to have the generators out there tomorrow. We may not have them out there for 2 months, right? Or do you have somebody that stockpiles generators like Generac that can do this quickly? We still have to go through the bid process, correct? So there is a time lag here?
Absolutely. Mike could probably speak to this in better terms than I can. This project will not happen in 2 months. The installation of this generator. These generators are built specifically for the building. This project also includes some other upgrades to the facility. One of them is IT infrastructure. The current electrical grid power structure in the building would not support this generator, so that's another part of the upgrade that has to happen. Another part of this proposal too is a modification of the entryway to allow for bariatric wheelchairs, which is something that we've found is a gap in our ability to serve our residents.
So if we put it out for bids, it's going to be 30 days to get bids. And then we go from there. So the sooner we get going on this, the better. But I wanted people to realize this isn't going to happen overnight. So we still have time to backtrack to get the money from ARPA. So I get where we're going with all this, and as long as Mike qualified that we could come back and ask the commission very nicely, could you please give us this money? We could try that. So I don't want to snag this up because of that, but just so we all realize it's going to take some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Just so you all realize, after the commission, if they did go ahead and pass it, then it has to come back to the county board to go ahead to pass it, because the county board has the final say on anything that goes through ARPA.
Thank you.
Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was just piggybacking the answer that Corporation Counsel had for Supervisor Dowling in regards to the county's role in emergency management. By state statutes, the cities, villages, and towns are required. But then it kind of follows the chain of command. So once their resources are exhausted, they then go to the county to assist. Once the county's resources are exhausted, they ask other counties to assist. Once their resources are exhausted, they then go to the state, and the state comes in as a supportive measure. But really the responsibility lies upon the cities, villages, and towns and counties when it comes to just the government version of emergency management. And then once the state's role is exhausted, then it goes up to FEMA. But FEMA is kind of more of in the terms of payment and things like that, more of a financial role. That's the only reason why I chimed in. Thanks.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We keep hearing, take it to ARPA, 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 ARPA. Do we know if we did apply, how long it takes for that application to get through? Because that could be a long process, couldn't it? Thank you.
You want to go ahead?
No, ARPA won't necessarily be a long process because they've already sent us the money. It doesn't work the same way as the Neighborhood Improvement Fund grant, for instance, which is a completely different part of ARPA. It's part of their allocation to the state, so we have to deal with the state grant requirements. But for the federal, state and local recovery funds, which is what the 33 million is, they just sent us that money in 2 batches. We've accepted it. I have to file quarterly reports, filed one on Monday. And since we've claimed it all as lost revenue, I really only have to file one more report identifying governmental expenses, and then we can basically transfer that money to our own separate fund and spend it however we please, although it's the intention of the commission to allocate all of that money for different projects that are within the spirit of the and purposes of the original ARPA resolution. Pardon?
So we've already accepted it, and therefore there wouldn't be a long application process, and we actually could ask for it and get it almost immediately?
We're actually holding the money, so it's just a matter of how we allocate it, if we move it from the separate account.
Who's we? Is we you?
Me. All right.
You. Okay, so will you give us the money?
Me and Carol. And our auditor. So we can use the money, but just because of the legalities of that grant, I don't want to actually move that money back until next year because of the lost revenue process we're currently going through with the Treasury Department. Not something you need to worry about, but we can allocate that money after.
I guess I'm still not sure whether, because I'm kind of, you don't want to look for the boogeyman under the bed, but, there really could be something serious that we have to do something with those people at Parkview, and what is our option? Okay, so you need electricity and oxygen? Sorry, die. I mean, how fast could we get this through to get this generated? Are you willing to let loose the purse strings if you're the one controlling it?
Oh, it's not my decision to make. I didn't mean to suggest that.
Any of that until it goes through the commission. From the commission, it goes through this board, and sometimes we know how fast this board acts.
Oh my gosh.
We'll just leave it at that.
All right, I'll stop.
I'm going to try this on voice vote. All those in favor of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors amend 2023 Winnebago County general budget as to add $853,016 to the 2023 budget of the Facilities Department for the purpose of installing an emergency generator, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment 14, adding $14,612 to the human resource registration tuition for employee training to the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. Be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County general budget so as to add $14,612 to the 2023 budget of the human resource Department for the purpose of add training classes in 2023 for employees such as first-time supervisors, interpersonal communication, effective one-on-ones, and other classes that will increase skills for supervisors, which will be a tool for employee retention. Supervisor Bender.
I'll move amendment number 014.
And it's seconded by Supervisor Powers.
During the budget session, I asked Mark Kabak what we could do to maybe retain employees. And he emailed me back last night with this, that he thought if we could send these, Fox Valley Tech has some classes there that he think would be beneficial to train some of our new supervisors. We got 13 new supervisors since the first of the year, and then train some basically employees, the same amount. He's in the back. If we got any questions, he probably would be better to answer them than I would.
Not seeing any questions. All those in favor of adding $14,612 to the human resource registration for tuition for employee training signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed,
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
We'll have to take a roll call. I think I know who's got it, but, so if you're in favor of it,
No, that's fine. The object number is 55014.
now you changed it.
Yep. 55014, the object number.
Okay, the object number, the amount didn't change, but
No, the amount did not change, yeah.
55014 for the object name, 55014. But it is still, the amount is $14,612. So if you're in favor of it, signify, or push your A. If you're not, push nay. Supervisor Dowling?
Nay.
Supervisor Beam?
No.
Supervisor Flom?
No.
And that fails 18 to 15. Resolution number 12610, 2022, Amendment 15, Public Health Expense Reduction. The Winnebago County Board of Supervisors be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County General Budget so as to delete $698,019 from the 2023 budget of the Public Health Department. Be it further resolved, the Winnebago County Supervisors that the reduction in expense shall be offset by increased reduction of the undesignated general fund balance. Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to introduce amendment number 15.
And that's seconded by Supervisor Defferding. Supervisor Hanson, you have anything to say
Yes,
on it?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was not an easy thing to do. I asked a lot of questions to the Department of Health and to our executive. We've heard a lot of talk about reducing expenses, and that's what I'm attempting to do here. Please note that none of the line item reductions are going to a zero. There are still funds there to execute what we need. My concern is increases from as little as 72% to up to 3,900%. I'm moving advertising from $40,000 back to about the same amount that Human Services is doing. The greatest number that you see is on other contract services. It's taking kind of about half, and it's only because there is not any kind of clear executable plan in place. As mentioned in the discussion, we may be looking for contractors to come out of Milwaukee. That may or may not happen. This is also with the consideration that we can take swift and corrective measures immediately should the funds be needed. So that's the basis of this amendment.
Supervisor Defferding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, this should be clarified to all the supervisors here. This isn't like removing $698,000. This is just basically returning these numbers to 2022 levels. And so don't want everyone here to be completely alarmed at this. This is just simply returning it to somewhat feasible levels from the previous year. simply because right now it just is pretty apparent that we don't necessarily have an actual plan in place for some of these things, like for instance advertising for lead abatement. Not that I'm against it. I'm certainly for it. I just think that it would be good for us to have like a plan in place before we actually put forward something like this. If it does go over budget, then it goes through the Board of Health and it comes through the County Board of Supervisors for us to approve. This is just simply money that we're setting aside for 2023, and if it goes over budget, then we will have that conversation. That's all this is. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple questions. First, could you tell me what the rental revenue component of this is?
I'm not, well, the only increase in rental expenses for the department were payments to the Parks Department for use of Expo, for use of their facility for the COVID vaccine and testing. So that's the increase. We had, actually, I mean, Parks, we're a county entity. I mean, we don't get charged necessarily for that. However, we did have funding available for that purpose. We were fortunate to have Expo to be able to use, and so we offered to use some of the COVID funding that's available to compensate Parks for that as a reasonable expense.
Thanks. That makes sense. That's super smart way to use your funding. So if you don't have that $28,184, you're reducing programming, right? You're not able to rent that facility?
Well, we just wouldn't be paying Parks. So we wouldn't be capturing those dollars that we could capture as part of funding made available from the feds.
Okay. And then on the $670,000, you've thought about that, right? You have like actual things. You didn't just pick a number out of a hat and say we want to spend $1.2 million on this stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about how you have thought about those dollars matching up to services in our communities?
Yep. So that line that's the full amount that's budgeted for other contracted services in the 2023 budget. The basic breakdown of how those funds are to be used, we've got here about $253,000 of that are contracts for our recently accepted COSAP grant, and that would include our overdose fatality review team facilitation, funds that are already designated to go to Solutions to run our rapid response team that we have a pilot going for right now, evaluation of the overdose fatality review team, and then most of the rest of that is set for paying for the lead abatement work of the grant that we just got this past year. So that's the lion's share of it.
It sounds like things are actually matched up to real expenses you plan. My last comment then is I think there's one more thing that's needed in this amendment to make it true to form, which would be a corollary reduction in the revenues for the Parks Department, which would then increase the amount of undesignated reserve fund we need to apply to that. Is that right, or has that been accounted for?
I can speak to that. I've met with the Parks Director, and this isn't revenue that they budgeted or anticipated for next year, so it's not included in their 2023 budget.
Well, then line 11, where it says we need to take $228,184 out of the Parks revenue account probably shouldn't be there.
Correct.
So the resolution was written, the amendment, Mr. Collard, in your opinion, the amendment is not accurately capturing the way the budget was written, and line 11 should be deleted?
Yes, I would agree with that. I didn't have a chance to talk with the Parks Director while writing this up, and so my thought was that if there's going to be, internal revenue paid from one department to the other, we do that, and if we're going to reduce it on one side, we need to reduce it on the other. But I couldn't find the right account, so I used this. They did have a rental revenue account, so the way it's written, the two would cancel. So the $698,000 is just the $28,000 from line 12 and the $670,000 from line 13. but realizing what it is then, yeah, line 11 ought to be eliminated.
I will move to delete line 11.
I think it's also important to note that these are all funds from grants that have already been approved and planned for next year. And so you'd really be, by removing these funds, you'd be making it very difficult for us to live up to the terms that we've agreed to in the expenditures of these funds and to run those programs. So, I mean, if there's an intent here, please share it. I mean, if certainly the first one seems very targeted at, funds to the Parks Department for the COVID response. The advertising one, I'm not quite sure what that's targeted at. But I'm more than happy to meet with any of you, and I've answered lots of questions, coming into this process, and I'm happy to do so, today and in the future.
Supervisor Hanson.
Yeah, nothing is specifically targeted. For example, on the advertising of $40,000, it's just bringing it down. It's a significant increase from what we've done in the past. It's bringing it down to a similar level like Human Services has. So it's just bringing it back in line. It's not zeroing anything. As far as not making available, that is not the intent of this, as Supervisor Duffy clarified better for me than I did. We can come back and amend immediately should we go over budget without serious consequences or interruption of anything. It's just reducing expenses and responsibility, especially because there has not been a clear executable plan, and you indicated that we're looking down to people in Milwaukee that may or may not be available. So we're allocating funds that just simply may not happen, and there is a remedy for it.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Even if I take out the 28,184 in line 11, the numbers don't add up. They add up to way more than $698,019. I'm not good at math, but I don't get this math. It's not adding up. And people look at advertising as something that, oh, it's just ads. What do we need those for? But an ad executive from a newspaper once said to me, the typical household has this much money to spend on everything that goes on in the house. And advertising might drive where some of that is going. Are you going to spend money on insurance? Are you going to spend money on food? Are you going to spend money on something recreational? Whatever that household is spending it on, some of that is driven by ads, and we may actually need that ad, not revenue, expense to drive the message home. But it's still, the numbers aren't adding up. Thank you.
Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. Question, maybe Mr. Collard can help me with. To the comments of the director, when it comes to grants, how do we account for that within our budgeting process? Because if I'm understanding what you're saying, that these funds actually are tied to grants, not to any sort of fund that we would have, be it whatever fund it is. So how do we account for grants in that way? And if that's the case, how does this all coalesce then?
Well, grants can be accounted for two different ways. And one way is as part of the budget process. Another way is we do see resolutions during the year when a grant comes in that wasn't expected. We have a resolution accepting the grant, and then usually that same resolution will include a budget revision to authorize spending of the funds received in the grant.
Right. So I guess what I'm asking, and I apologize, I didn't ask it really in a very concise way. Within the budget, what budget lines would I be able to go to see where the grants are being reflected within our budget?
Well, the simplest way, I mean, it's easier to see it in the revenue lines than in the expense lines generally.
Right.
You know, and then we usually have a breakdown.
But we have revenue lines within our budget.
Right, revenue, so
So is it baked into our revenue line as an account, or am I able, as a supervisor, when I'm looking at this, to be able to understand any level of detail that makes up that
I
versus a
appreciate-
rolled-up number?
I appreciate that. It's very difficult to see the detail. There's further detail in our computer system than there is in the book.
Right, I understand.
that
It's
we can't
nearly
fit.
600 pages. You have to.
Yeah, but if you look at intergovernmental revenue on page 330, for instance, all those intergovernmental revenue lines are typically what you would call a grant.
Okay.
But often there'll be several separate grants. For instance, the Wisconsin Department of Health Services might have several different funding programs or grant programs that funnel money to our health department.
Okay.
So to see the breakdown is difficult. It's not all in the book. I have some of that information, you know, Doug and his team could provide much more detail than I would have as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, but if I may, there's a couple ways to look at that. You know, when we build our budget each year, we know, well, we think we know generally what the revenues are for, you know, maybe the 20 different grants that we're putting into the budget. And each of those grants, especially the newer ones, you know, there's an actual budget for that grant. And so we basically budget the revenues where we think we're going to spend them. And that is easily seen in a little more detail in our Munis system. Or if you're interested in a particular grant, we're happy to share the detail of that. But really, at this point, you know, this is the budget for next year. This is what, this is a budgeting of the funds that we know that we have available right now and for the projects that we plan to do. We've signed contracts that we're going to do this work. I mean, flood abatement is an example. You know, we've worked for a long time to combine funding sources in order to make this project happen. Most of the money from the state and the feds for this are going to go to actually do lead abatement. That's what those funds are for, to actually pay for the lead abatement to occur. And the same thing with that COSAP grant. I mean, it's a $1.2 million grant over 3 years that we've accepted, and those are funds that we've budgeted for to implement that grant in this next year. So yes, it's an increase over the previous year because they're new grants, they're new funding sources.
Supervisor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear you say that most of these dollars are grant dollars?
Yes, I mean, probably, I can't say for sure it's 100%, but it's probably pretty close.
The vast majority of them, you would say, are grant dollars.
Yes.
All right, and grant dollars are our tax dollars from the taxpayers of Winnebago County that we pay to the state of Wisconsin, that we pay to the federal government. Those are our tax dollars coming back to our community and paying for the services provided to and in the community. I don't understand why we keep turning away those monies. I don't understand why we turn away free money. We have, and if we are prioritizing people, how does this prioritize our employees of the health department who have been through hell for the last 2 years, who continue to churn, who continue to serve in spite of the things that they've faced? How does it prioritize the people of Winnebago County that we've committed to serve? Those are general questions I have for my fellow board members. When I think of the services that the health department provides to the residents of the city of Menasha from birth till death, it's amazing. And I really have to ask myself, and I think we have to ask each other, is the goal here to dismantle and defund the health department, and for what purpose? Thank you.
Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if these are grant funds and we don't spend them, do we get to keep them?
No, in fact, we don't even have them. We only get them after we spend them first. So they're reimbursement grants.
Okay.
And so they would stay with the state or the federal agency that issued that grant.
So then I would suggest that this amendment isn't even written in a way that makes sense with our budget, because it's not going to increase the undesignated general fund balance, right?
If there are, it'll never go to the undesignated fund balance.
Yeah. So the makers of this amendment are misleading. They don't understand the basics of how our budget has come together. We should reject this because it is a lie. It will not put any more money back into the undesignated reserve fund. Thank you.
Supervisor Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call a question.
Motion made and seconded to call the question.
And each ship carried 5 gallons.
2/3, right? I'm just going to try and do it just by roll call. The question has been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. Well, to make it legal, I'll go ahead. If you're in favor of the question being called, push A. If you're not, push nay. Yes, just on the call of question. Supervisor Flom is here. Supervisor Dowling?
Yay.
From the one no. Oh, Supervisor Beam?
Yes.
Ooh. 25-8. We'll try it this other way. We'll just try it by voice vote. Public health expense reduction, be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County general budget so as to delete $698,019 from the 2023 budget of the Public Health Department. Be it further resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that the amended reduction in expenses shall be offset in increase reduction to the undesignated general fund balance. We better do it by machine, yes. If you're in favor of that, signify by saying aye. If you're not, say nay. Supervisor Youngquist, or Dowling, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Nay.
Supervisor Beam.
Nay.
And that has failed. 23-9.
Thank you.
Resolution 12610-2022, amendment number 17, add organizational charts to the annual budget book for fiscal year 2023 for Winnebago County. Be resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends the 2023 Winnebago County general budget to add organizational charts to the 2023 budget book for Winnebago County. Be it further resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that the amendment, don't have any amount in here, for that to be added. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for amendment number 017.
And it's seconded by Supervisor Flom. You want to talk about it, Supervisor Eisen?
Yes, sir. All department organization charts have been eliminated from the executive budget for 2023, depriving the public and Winnebago County Board of Supervisors from visualizing the structure of our county government. These charts provide vital information that is relevant to understanding and overseeing county business. Therefore, I solicit your approval of amendment number 017.
I have it. Supervisor
Yesterday it
Gustafson.
was.
No, it wasn't yesterday.
Supervisor Gustafson didn't have that one?
Do you have any extras?
It was, number 17. No one got it? Tom?
I'll snag one.
Okay. All right. Back on track. Supervisor Norton.
My very quick question is to Mr. Collard. Are you going to include them in the 2023 budget book? And my question to Corporation Council, what if they don't? What, this gets guaranteed? That's my two quick questions.
We'll start with Mr. Collard.
You're asking, will we include it in the budget book? I mean, if this passes, I guess I'll put it in the book when we print it, and more importantly, you know, when we put it online, we can add it to the book. I think I'll more likely just do it as an attachment at the end. We can't repaginate everything, or don't want to repaginate everything. And my main concern is simply, in addition to just trying to trim down the book, is they're hard to keep up to date. It's very hard to keep them accurate and up to date. And I would request the board somehow clarify whether printing these with the book means that the board is adopting them as a statement of policy, because that's never been how we've treated them. And I want to make sure that we don't have to, you know, bring back every change to the board for action.
Corporate Counsel?
Yes, my understanding is that it would be an attachment as opposed to actually basically taking apart the book and inserting additional pages. There was a concern about the fact that the organizational charts change, but I did speak with Mr. Hobbick, and he indicated to me that the charts that were distributed yesterday or the day before are probably 99% accurate.
Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly wouldn't expect you to reprint or repaginate the current books, but I certainly would like a hard copy of those pages that are missing from this year's budget, which we've had all along in the past with those organizational charts. That's what I would ask for. Thank you.
Supervisor
And no,
Robinson.
it's not an amendment.
The only thing I have to say is that, thank you, Mr. Chairman, was that you got to keep in mind, just like he said, this changes like frequently, like constantly. So really putting that into the book, I don't think it's advisable, but if you want to, you could. But I don't see the point, because it's going to change so frequently, there's no point to put it in there.
Supervisor Zestera.
Can I make a friendly amendment to this? That we would have one hard copy available, kept at the front or to the side, that we can reference at the budget meeting. I asked for the hard copy. I've referred to it maybe once. We can have it online. Thank you. I'm talking about next time. I have a hard
Mr.
copy.
Eisen.
I have a hard copy today. I'm talking about in the future. Thank you.
I see no second, so that will fail. Seconded by Supervisor Norton. The motion is made and seconded that she would just like to have like one hard copy, correct me if I'm wrong, one hard copy like up at the front of the, or over to the side over here, to look at just at budget time. So in other words, So in other words, it'd be just, it won't be this year anymore, it'll be next year. Am I correct?
Okay, yes, again, that we would have a hard copy available to us, a community hard copy, and that we would also have access online, to scroll through if we wanted to. That would be my amendment. Thank you.
But you're just saying just like one for up here, everybody wouldn't have one. Is
Not
that-
everybody would
okay.
have one.
Thank you.
Does she mean she doesn't want it in the book?
Right. She's,
Not in the book or not personal copies.
so there's been a motion made and seconded to do that.
That's undermining the intent of this.
Right, she wanted to make an amendment. She's making an amendment. Can she do that?
She can make an amendment,
Well.
but again, it goes against the underlying intent, but yes, she can.
Okay, so that's her amendment, and it was seconded by Supervisor Norton. And it'll have to be 2/3, or what'll it have to be?
Majority.
Majority. So all those in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, opposed say nay. Nay. The nays have it. Back on the original. Supervisor Haran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say that I really appreciated getting the hard copy yesterday. I looked at it last evening, and I know that I had a little bit of confusion yesterday by not understanding that positions had been deleted from certain departments. And so it was nice to actually look at the hard copy and see what that said. Thank you.
Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to vote against this. I think it is a helpful document to visualize where the table of organization looks like from a, just from a perspective of where positions are and things like that. But I share the concerns that you have, Mr. Collard, about this becoming policy that the board adopts or that the board wants to have more control over. And so for that reason, I'm going to vote against it. But I do hope that as a supplemental document or information that helps the board process what's going on, that it's something that can continue to be made available. And then lastly, I'll just say, as it is in the book this year, you do have all the positions laid out for us to see. I can clearly see every single position title, how many there are in each department. The only thing I don't see is, sort of which ones are grouped into which division of the work, which I think is, again, just a little helpful in quickly visualizing it, but I absolutely share the concern about that becoming some piece of policy that the board is subtly or implicitly adopting with the budget. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over my 20 years, we've always had it in the book. I really haven't heard any concerns during those 20 years about a position of why we shouldn't have it in the book, so the concerns being expressed now are new to me. So I would certainly urge you to support this, put it back in the book. It's a handy reference to have, and it's a good visual document to look at while we're going through the budget, because you can determine what the current status of a department is and if they're adding more people or not. So that's my thoughts.
Supervisor Hens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did hear one of the concerns was for the public's information. And the public's information generally is going to come from things that are online. I don't think that we need to have this printed off and, as was discussed, the extra paper used. I think if this was something that was online, it would A, be easily adjustable as positions are filled or made or created or lost, and B, it's easily accessible to any of us while we're sitting in this chamber because we have our tablets in front of us. I think that actually printing it out every year is a waste because we can have that at our disposal right on a screen in front of us. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Not seeing any other lights. We will do it by machine. Add organizational chart to the annual budget book for fiscal year 2023 for Winnebago County. Be it further resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends the 2023 Winnebago County general budget so as to add the organizational charts to the 2023 budget book of Winnebago County. So, anybody got their hand up? I can't see it right now. Oh, we're voting on what I just read. No, just a sheet put in there. Add an organizational chart, it says. It's an attachment. It won't be taking all the books back. Correct. Correct. They're going to have to make it and hand it out at the next meeting, if this passes. If you'd like to have that done, vote A. If you don't, vote nay. Supervisor Dowling.
Nay.
Supervisor Boehm.
No.
And that fails 2014. In last, as of right now, resolution number 12610-2022, amendment number 18, eliminating administrative association for position and relating funding. To Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County general budget as to delete $39,208 from the 2023 budget of the County Executives Department and delete an additional $39,208 from the 2023 budget of the Department of Administration for a total reduction of $78,416 for the purpose of eliminating the Administrative Association position from the table of organization as a split position between County Executive Office and the Department of Administration and removing funding for that position.
Point of order, those who are remote do not have a copy of this. Is there a way that they can get a copy of this?
No. Well, one of them might have it. She was here, well, no, you are correct. She left before, so I don't know how they would get it. They're going to email it to them right now.
Thank you.
Supervisor Nichols.
Mr. Chairman, I move for amendment number 18, an amendment eliminating administrative associate for position and related funding.
And it's seconded by Supervisor Cox.
Thank you. This is what I thought I was signing on to all those hours ago. And this relates to the administrative associate for position that was added to the budget to be shared between the county executive and the Department of Administration. All the departments were asked to come in with a 0% increase for their budget this year. The executive's office has come to the board with several requests since April that have increased its budget and staff. And since all departments have made sacrifices to make this budget work, I think it's appropriate to ask the Executive's Office and Department of Administration to do the same. Thank you.
Supervisor Hens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we just discussed at length, some would say ad nauseum, with the last cut on the executive department, we do not eliminate positions. We can cut funding, we do not eliminate positions. And this specifically says we're eliminating a position. I would ask corporate counsel's advice on this.
And it says and related funding, so.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Hens, I was talking to someone else. Can you please repeat your question?
The amendment is stated as eliminating administrative associate for position and related funding. As was made quite clear before, we do not eliminate positions.
Well, we don't.
eliminate funding, we can cut funding, but we do not eliminate
That,
positions.
but what you also have to realize is this position is going to be half towards county exec and half towards the director of administration,
Okay,
okay? So the statute that was referenced talked about the county executive's staff.
right.
This is not totally for the county executive's staff. That part of it is for the director of administration.
And that's why I wanted to get the clarification on that,
Sure.
because it just seemed like we were going down the same path again.
Well, it says 39,000 from the county executive's department and 39,000 from the Department of Administration.
Right.
Right.
Supervisor Albrecht.
I won't support this. As I said before, the executive needs this help in his office, and I will support it.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For years, I have prodded the past county executive to have an administrative associate to do his paperwork. I've also wondered how the county board chair does his job. Well, I know that the county clerk has helped all the way for the chair. Now, with the county executive sharing this associate with the administration department director, it's a good choice, and I urge you to defeat this amendment. And let's go home.
Well, I see now nothing else on there, so I believe we can vote by machine. If you want to eliminate administrative position for and relating funding, be resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby amends 2023 Winnebago County General Budget so as to delete $39,208 from the 2023 budget of the County Executive Department and to delete an additional $39,208 from the 2023 budget of the Department of Administration for a total expense reduction of $78,416 for the purpose of eliminating an administrative associate for to position from the table of organization as split between County Executive Office and the Department of Administration and removing funding from that position. If you are in favor of that, of the elimination, you'll vote A. If you're not in favor of it, you'll vote nay. Who am I thinking of? Supervisor Dowling?
Nay.
Supervisor Boehm?
No.
And that has failed by majority vote, 27-7. And that is our county budget as of this time. Now we need to adopt the, now we need a motion to adopt the county budget. Pardon? I know, but you got it? You got it, mine's in there. You gonna do it?
The 2023 budget as amended.
A motion has been made and seconded to, as amended, adopt the 2023 budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed, those opposed say nay. It is carried unanimously. I thank you all. We got through it all, and don't forget that if you want to meet with the kids tomorrow. Supervisor Albrecht. Seconded.
There's a thing.
Seconded by Supervisor Hintz. We've already been done. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Recording stopped.